Hello friends, followers and channel members, welcome to another video here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. So Hotfix number 2 for Sim Update number 5 arrived late last night for those of us here in Europe. This takes us from version 1.18.14 to version 1.18.15. The update is installed through the store and not by launching Microsoft Flight Simulator. It doesn't automatically do the installation like other previous updates have. So we're going to have a little look at that. We're then going to do some comparisons and just see how much this hotfix number 2 has fixed. So let's delve straight in. Before applying the hotfix, remember to empty your community folder, and if you have changed any of the settings manually in the config file, then either restore your original, as you should have backed that up, or if not, go in there and just restore any of the values that you know you have changed, so you're working with a clean config file before applying the hotfix. So unlike previous updates where you would launch the flight simulator, it would check for updates and then you would be able to be taken automatically to the Microsoft Store, this doesn't work for this update. This is just an update in the Microsoft Store itself. So launch a Microsoft Store, you can either go and then search for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or if you've got automatic downloads and updates turned on, you'll probably find that it's already downloading that for you when you get there, as you can see here. Not a huge download. Strangely enough, the Xbox has also got an update as well, which is 3 times the size of the one here on the PC. So just let this update and you'll see once it's updated, the version number will change. So that's updating now. We'll let that finish and we'll get the Microsoft Flight Simulator program up and running. So here we are now running the latest version 1.18.15, and as I'm flying over Washington at the moment, and I have reverted back to my original settings. So these are using the in-game settings that I had prior to Sim Update number 5, and you can see everything's quite nice and smooth. There's no issues there. Still great frame rates, which the original Sim Update number 5 did promise. But as I'm looking down, I can see here that I could perhaps get some more detail out of the ground textures below, and this is one of the things that this new update is meant to have fixed. The new hotfix is meant to have sorted. So what I'm going to do now, as I'm quite happy with the frame rates I'm getting here, I'm just going to go in and tweak my graphics settings a little bit. Because of the optimizations that Microsoft and Asobo have made to the game now, we can actually go and get extra detail and extra settings. We can pump those up without any loss in frame rates. So these are the settings I'm currently using. As you can see, I'm just going to mess around with these, and what I'm going to change is these 2 sliders right up to the maximum, and then let's see how the visuals are going to look after we've done this. So let's hit save and let's get going again. And instantly you can now see much sharper textures down below, and you can obviously see a lot more detail on the buildings as well. This is really nice. But what about the frame rates? How has that affected it by playing around with those? Well, let's have a quick check. So now you can see still fantastic textures down below, and my FPS in the NVIDIA graphics settings I actually have capped to 35. I don't require any more than 35 for a flight simulator. Really anything above 30 is absolutely fine, and you can see that this is a really nice frame rate to graphics setting trade-off, if you like. We've got great graphics down below, lots of details, and as you can see the frame rates drop a little bit as I pan the camera up so you're getting the full horizon spread, but I'm very happy now with how this is both looking and running. So the fact that now we have better optimization of the way the simulator runs and all the textures means that we can now start to really push the graphics sliders up to their maximum without suffering a loss of frame rates is fantastic. And one of the areas that this hotfix is supposed to address is the ground level of detail, low resolution when flying at airliner altitudes. So they've now gone in and tweaked this. So let's have a quick look at one of the photogrammetry cities. Let's go to London and see what this looks like from altitude. So here we are over London, and I'm still running with my terrain and object detail running at the maximum of 200 on the sliders you saw me set previously, and looking down there, I think that looks exactly as it used to. In other words, it's fantastic. So thank you so much to Asobo for addressing that. And of course, I'm still getting fantastic frame rates, as you'd expect from high altitude flying anyway. So really good to see that that has been fixed. Next item to address though was the clouds. So after Sim Update 5 was first released, many of us, myself included, noticed what appeared to be a rather degrading performance in the way that the clouds looked. They looked like oil paintings, as some people say, or washed out, and volumetric lighting was also removed. That didn't help. So these clouds now, following the hotfix number 2, should have been addressed. These images were taken prior to the fix. Let's have a look at the clouds now that the hotfix has been applied. So here we can see now the clouds do look better. They certainly don't look as washed out, and they seem to have a bit more detail to them. The volumetric lighting, of course, has helped as well. So there's definitely a difference from before the fix to after the hot fix. But I'm sure many of you will agree that they still seem to be lacking something. They almost look... It's difficult for me to try and put this into words and describe it. I can't find the right words. Perhaps you can. Leave a comment down below. But I don't know, they just don't look quite as detailed as they did prior to Sim Update 5. So I do still think that there perhaps is a little bit of work for Asobo to go in and do to try and get them looking as good as they were. And let's face it, clouds are rather a big thing. This is a flight simulator after all. We spend our time in the air most of the time. So we want those clouds to look as realistic as we can get them, and I'm sure that in time Asobo will come in and improve the looks on these. But this is definitely an improvement after hotfix number 2 has been applied, so that's great to see. So next on the list was the abnormal temperature spikes. Now the problem with this or the problems that it caused meant that if using live weather when you were at high altitude, we were getting really high temperatures, which degraded aircraft performance, essentially meaning that your fuel burn was through the roof, you wouldn't be able to climb to your cruising altitude, and your aircraft couldn't gain speed. As far as I can tell, this has been fixed in the hotfix, so the abnormal temperature readings and abnormal temperature spikes over airports where METAR data was not updating often enough has now been fixed, so we should now be able to use live weather. There are a couple of other things as well in the release notes. So the aligned pressure altitude SIMVAR and pitot-static altitude calculations to prevent wrong altitude information for external live ATC services such as VATSIM has now also been fixed. What essentially that means is that the information that the virtual air traffic controllers are seeing on their screens should match up with the altitude that you are seeing on your screens as well. GPU stats are also now displayed in the debug window when the dev mode is activated on the PC version, and they've disabled aggressive compilation optimization for WASM or WASM. Now there is also a known issue. This is going back to the altitude reporting. The known issue is that the in-sim air traffic control service, so not VATSIM or IVAO, but the simulator's air traffic control default, can still report incorrect altitudes, and this fix is not expected until the next world update. That is world update number 6, so something to be aware of. One of the big things that I had noticed when flying on VATSIM using my model matching and even just using AI traffic is that most of my liveries now no longer work and rather have a pink glowy texture to them. So I wanted to see if this had been addressed, and it seemed that in doing this test I experienced a crash to desktop, which sort of tells me that there is still a huge issue with third-party liveries, and if you are continuing to get crash to desktops, I highly suspect that this may be the reason. So for now, any liveries you download, please make sure that they have been verified as Sim Update 5 compatible, and you can find this has been checked on sites like flightsim.to when you go ahead and download them. So in conclusion then, I think that this hotfix number 2 for sim update number 5 has been a success. They have addressed all of the points that they have said they are going to address, and more importantly, they all appear to be working. So thank you Asobo for listening to the community and getting this second hotfix out as soon as possible. I want to know, guys, how you're finding the hotfix, if everything is working for you, if CTDs, crash the desktops, are still plaguing your flight sim experience. Please let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button on the video and the subscribe, and don't forget to turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss future videos and live streams. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon.